Spoiler alert. I want to talk about two movies I just recently saw, and I'm reading reviews. The only reason I'm doing this, and maybe I'll do more movie reviews in the future, but the only reason I'm doing this is because I read reviews of the one movie, and actually both of them, and I'm really just disappointed, so I thought, here's my take. The two movies are Passenger and Arrival. So if you haven't seen either of those two movies, you might want to turn this off now and not listen to the rest of it. If you have seen them, I'm interested in your opinion. More interested in mine, apparently. That's the one I'm recording. But the support, it seems like the general public really likes Arrival. That's gotten higher on IMDb than Passengers, and I have to disagree with that severely. I think Arrival was it's creative, but as far as what it was trying to say, it was basic. It was creative the way they pulled off the plot, but really basic. Where Passengers, I think, was saying something far deeper and far more difficult to grapple with than what Arrival was saying. So let me just break down what I'm thinking. Arrival is very creative how they brought the aliens down and interacted with them, and there was some neat CGI stuff with gravity changing inside the chamber. You notice I walked up to see the aliens. And that all sort of blurring, and it was nice how the timeline of showing her losing the child in the beginning of the movie before she actually had the child at the end of the movie. So all that was sort of blurring to me. It was intriguing. I liked the way they developed it. But what were they saying by all of that? If you go to the end of the movie, you finally understand what they were trying to accomplish. And what they were trying to say was that humans are this incredibly divided group, right? You've got all these different countries. So the 12 locations that all of the different arrival stones come down to are shown on that monitor. You see that they're walking into the military complex. And they're all fighting and arguing about this and that, and they all disagree. And the plot develops to the point where all the countries start pulling away from one another, right? And inferring the fact that if humans are left to their own devices, all they're going to do is hate each other, right? They yell at each other and they're suspicious of each other, and well, you know something and I don't know, so we're shutting it off. So on the one hand, you get the human experience, which is division and hatred, but then you get the aliens' perspective. And the aliens, for some unknown reason, show up in these 12 places, like they have nothing better to do with their time than show up to planets and give them something that'll pull them together, unify them. Maybe they're just wonderfully altruistic aliens, which leads me to another tangential point. I guess if you don't have God to rely on, you have to rely on eight-legged aliens. So, they desperately need unity. They can't go to divinity for that. So instead, they bring in an eight-legged alien who flies around the universe in a stone, and these guys can bring healing and hope to humanity where no one else can. So that's a secondary point. It's like a mission to Mars. Aliens are really the true wisdom in the universe. But anyway, so they come to these 12 places, and while humans in these 12 places hate each other and fight incessantly and want to destroy each other, the aliens give the humans a tool for unity. And what is that tool for unity? Language. So you get these circles that the aliens produce, and if you listen to the one statement made by Amy Adams' character, language teaches you how to think differently. So language and your culture, i.e. my culture, English or American culture with English I speak, makes me divisive, hateful, narrow-minded, where if I learn a universal language, just by learning that language alone, I become loving and kind and open and forgiving to the point where I create a unified government. So if you remember, when she's looking ahead, because once you learn the circle language that the aliens speak, you see across time. When she looks ahead at one point, she's there at a formal dinner with the leader of China. So in this one future, now that she knows the language, and everyone knows the language in the future, China and these Americans are standing together, loving one another, they're at a banquet. Where in the time as it's happening, before they learn the circle language, China's the one that's separating and pulling out, wanting to destroy the earth. So once you learn this language, then you become kind and loving. So the only moral development we need is understanding. People just don't understand. I speak English. If I learned to speak Chinese and Spanish, and if I could speak all the languages of the world, I would love everyone in the world. Which really is ridiculous. It's just absurd. Do we think that because the Middle East all speaks Arabic that they get along, or everybody in America speaks English so we all get along? It's this bizarre humanism, which is blessed with true wisdom because it comes down from an alien. So if an alien teaches you this why, then it's all the rage and we have to learn it. It saves us from ourselves. I enjoyed the movie up until I saw what they were doing there, and then I lost it. I just thought it's overly simplistic. It's incredibly naive. And to me, just thoughtless. So I love the beauty of the movie, but that point they were making, it smacks of post-imperialism, it smacks of revisionist history, it smacks of post-colonialism, that the only evils in the world are when one power asserts themselves on another, and that true culture, true universal culture, multiculturalism, right? True universal culture is healing. It just totally misses human nature entirely. Now, Passengers, on the other hand, to me was brilliant. Beautiful, maybe not as creative as Arrival, but the questions it forced you to ask were really astounding. Now, unfortunately, they don't take you to the real solution. They don't tie you as a human being purposefully into a divine will, which is where we really find our purpose in life as human beings. It's very humanistic in that regard. Most movies are. But what the movie asked you was several questions. One, if you're a good person but you're left alone, to die alone, will you accept that fate, or will you wake someone else and put their life in danger? And so the main character, of course, does this, right? Jim, he wakes up this other character now that he's stuck on the ship for 90 years. He's going to die on that ship. Rather than die alone, he'd rather die with someone, and he takes someone else's life in his hands to do it. And so he's a good person. He leaves Earth to build things. He's going altruistically. He wants to give life to people. And even though he wants to give life, when he's pushed down to it, really down to it, his goal isn't so much to give life as is to take life. And that's a fabulous problem we as humans face. Grappling, as Jim does, with whether he should wake her or not is the struggle I have with sin all the time. I see it, I know it's bad, I know it's destructive. Paul says that sin is the wages of death. I know it's destructive to me. And I intend good, but when my heart wants something, I'm willing to sacrifice anything for it. That's just brilliant. You take that picture of Jim when he first meets Aurora in her pod, to the time where he releases her. Wow, what a picture of the struggle of sin. Anyway, so here he is a good person going out to do good, finds himself now in a strange situation. Rather than giving life, he takes it. Aurora is disconnected from everybody at home. So she doesn't go out to give life, she goes out to just find an adventure. And in doing so, which you don't find out till towards the end, in doing so, she's willing to eliminate from her life hundreds of people. So in the video that she plays towards the end of people saying goodbye to her, when she goes on this 125-year trip, they're all saying, I'm going to miss you, the one friend is crying, I don't want to do without you. And how selfish she was to simply eliminate all those people. Now think of it this way, and sci-fi lets you do this. Think of it this way. She was willing, in one sense, to kill all of those people. Right? She didn't actually kill them, but think about it. Just the imagery that there were all of these people, her friends. By the time she travels to Homestead 2, they're all going to be dead, 125 years old. So she will be alive and they will be dead. That's effectively killing them. And then she was going to make friends there for a year and leave them to die while she went back to Earth after another 125 years. So she was willing to kill everybody for herself. She wanted an experience, she wanted adventure, she wanted to write something great. So he, trying to do good, kills one person. She, hoping to destroy all these people, saves one person. Notice what happens when the deck commander, Lawrence Fishburne, finally talks with Aurora towards the end, and she goes, "What he did was murder," and Lawrence Fishburne said to her, "He's drowning," and the point is he's going to die, and the point she must have heard then is, you can save him, you can save one person. Man, the what she has to go through now, and towards the end, she's given the opportunity to go to sleep aboard the ship, but she doesn't. She decides to stay awake and save one person. She decides to save Jim. And in saving Jim, she saves herself, quite frankly. Because she was dying by killing all those people off and running away from everybody. She was a dying person. So that she was dying while she was alive. And now that she was dying, she was finally alive. Isn't it amazing? I love that. I think the imagery there of her trying to find life and being dead, or it is only when she finally starts dying that she starts to live again, is really just a brilliant picture of human nature and the struggles we face. I'll say this one thing about the end, and that's one of the reasons, and there's multiple, I don't have time to get into them all, but why I think Passengers is just a brilliant movie, is at the end I wish there were children, quite frankly, because that would have been even more movement towards life, and the writers are unclear that that's exactly what happened. But I think Passengers just lets you grapple with that problem, what life and death look like, and how do you invest yourself in one another, and that sometimes you have to give up your life to find it, which I think is a very Christian belief. Life is not found ultimately by pursuing life, it's found by pursuing death, and death to ourselves is what we give up on ourselves to find and love somebody else. And I think Jim does something very similar at the end, where he's willing to go stand in front of the fire just to save Aurora, he finally agrees. And then what's neat about that too is not only does he save her, but then he is able finally to build for one person. He's able to build a home and a house and a place for one person to live and enjoy life, and he gives himself to her. So it's a picture of sacrifice and just an incredible parallel of two very selfish people that end up giving of themselves towards the end. So to me, Passengers, thumbs up, 9.5. Arrival, bland, predictable outcome, give it about a 5.5.